What's up, world? It's your boy, Mike Muse. Welcome to the episode of the Mike Muse Show. I'm so excited to be in conversation with my next guest. I can honestly say she is a friend, and that is very rare in this industry. You can say this. And I'm very thankful I don't have to do a long intro because my guest has one of those names where you just know instinctively and deservedly so because she is such a kind, wonderful, beautiful, intelligent, compassionate, and empathetic human being who wants good of the world and just happens to be talented as fuck. Ladies and gentlemen, incredible dynamic Kelly Rowland.
Oh, thank you. What an intro. Well, dang. Okay.
Yeah. No, Kelly, you're an amazing human being. Ever since I had the chance, obviously I met you years ago through music, through television, and through Discmans back then, and the whole nine, watching from afar. But I really had the chance to meet you when you and I did a conversation for Verizon at the Essence Music Festival. And you and I just caught this incredible vibe. And I got a chance to learn your constitution in a really interesting, intimate way, right? Intimate audience because it was a small space. It was salon style. I really got a chance to really dive in. And ever since then, I just had this incredible connection with you. And so, one, thank you for being kind, right? And thank you for being decent, right? That's important. But then also, too, thank you for always being vulnerable and authentic. And I think that is why you're having the success that you're having because people connect with you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. But it's easy to connect when it's other people that want to connect. Yeah. And that's why we connected.
Yeah, that's very true.
So,
and the audience, like all of a sudden I went from not seeing her at all because of the pandemic for the 2 years. And then probably within the last couple of weeks, I've seen you once at the Oscars doing that round.
Yes.
So that time period.
Yes.
And then here we are. We saw at the Macro, and I was like, Kelly.
I know. And it was so great because that night was like, whoa. It was like, you know what I mean? It was like being able to catch up. So it was so awesome to see you there. And,
You know, we took those moments for granted, right, during the pandemic. And I think, you know, all of us I would say, jaded by another event because of another work thing. You know what I mean? You're there for a moment. I literally said, Kelly, I was like, yo, I'm going to roll by for a second, have a drink or two, and then leave. And then I got there, and everyone was there, all of our friends, and even people I didn't really so much care for per se. I was still happy to see them. I'm like, I don't remember why I didn't really like you that much, but I actually love you. How's your dog doing? Right. And I think that was a vibe of that party.
It was. Everybody was just happy to be there existing together, which I think maybe this town or entertainment space kind of needed that. Because I think that you used mentioned the word jaded, and that does happen. You know, we have to really take the moments that we do get a chance to connect with people, connect through art, connect through communication, and, you know, be like, this didn't have to be me. You know what I mean? And this opportunity didn't have to present itself like this. So it is great.
And I think, too, because we were down for 2 years in the pandemic, I think we recognizing how much our culture matters as society. And I think that we have to recognize that we all need to be custodians of that culture.
Absolutely.
And then I think we have to recognize that we have to play our part, whether you are an actor, performer, journalist, writer. I think we have responsibility in this ecosystem to be custodians of that, right? And so to amplify you as much as I can, when I can, and how I can.
Yes, and it has to be reciprocated.
It has to be reciprocated.
Because the thing is that like it can't be one-sided because then we're in that crabs in a bucket phase. Crabs in a barrel? Crabs in a barrel.
Crabs in a barrel, same thing.
Bucket.
It was a barrel, but same.
But I think that hopefully we're realizing that we have no more time and space for that. And that is space for everybody. I think for a long time, society was trying to tell us that it's only space for one. It's only space for one female artist, only space for one specific male artist, or you had only space for one brown girl, only space for, and that's not true. You know what I mean? I think that they were scared that if it was too much, that it would be too much for them. But it ain't about you. It's about the next generation and my son seeing it. And when he decides to have kids, he sees it. You know, so it's just like that is the most important thing now. And I think that that's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm loving, that people want to be better for each other in our community.
And I'm saying, and you're so right. Not only an audience, if you're not in the Hollywood entertainment space, I'm seeing it now in a couple of ways, Kelly. So, there's this narrative, particularly like with Black women and performers. They always pit you guys against each other, the generation ahead of us. I think your generation has disrupted that. And I think your generation is celebrating other female artists, like wholeheartedly, and amplifying them. And then also, too, what I'm seeing in the corporate America space, I see that is becoming to change, because there was a time, and I will put the onus on us, is that, we enjoyed being the only Black person in the boardroom, right? We enjoyed being the only Black person at the country club, right? And so we would do things to prevent others from even possibly doing it, because we love that validation from white America that said that we were the okay and the safe Negro, right? But we're recognizing how lonely and isolating, right? And how we can't advance change that way. And so what I'm seeing now, even in corporate America, we are now pulling seats up for each other, right? Like, and making room. And then from journalists, Kelly, and audience, it happens to us too at the same time. Like, there can only be one Black male on this TV show. That's a journalist, right? There could be only one Black show that gets all the looks. But I'm seeing now is that, artists who have empowerment agencies like yourself are requesting the Black journalists. And so that's the two-way streak. It has to be performers and actors has to request the Black journalist. Or, I'm coming to SiriusXM, make sure I get such and such and such and such in, right?
No,
or
it's true.
I'm going on such and such network. I want to be interviewed by such and such. Right. And so
it's unapologetically Black.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think being unapologetic about being Black and your space and claiming your space and making space for others is real talk.
And I think, audience, this is why Kelly's actually here, is to talk about this book, Always With You, Always With Me. It's her new children's book that is out now, and I have read it, and it is amazing. But Kelly, before I get to this, I want to say you released an EP, and homie, you are in your bag right now. I just can't wait to see you perform. I know you have a concert coming up in partnership with Red Dress with SiriusXM and Pandora. I want you to perform Speed of Love. I mean, if you can for me. I just can't get enough of that song.
Honestly, I have pictured performances of that song where it's literally dark in a room, a spotlight, myself, and a guitarist. And that is it, because that's how intimate that song is. Even when I did it with Nasri and Jeff Giddy, I'll never forget what that space was like in that room when we did it. And it was just so incredible and so pure. And just talking about what the speed of love is, and it's just the flow between two people and what that feels like. And yes, that's one of my favorites too.
You were in your pocket with that one.
Thank
like the
you.
way you connected with the melody and with the beat and your voice. Like there's sometimes I'm like, what is wrong with me right now? Like, not a negative song, meaning like, Mike, are you a hopeless romantic? Like, are you like?
And
am
there's
I just
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that, because I am too.
Yeah, that's why I was like, yo, Mike, I didn't know you felt this way about yourself. But it stays on repeat. So thank you for the Speed of Love.
Thank you.
I cannot wait to see you perform it.
Thank you.
But you mentioned Blackness and agency and the power of Blackness. And, me and my creative director, Davian, we were actually talking about the book. He had the chance to read the book, too, as well. And what he said was that the young man in the book looks just like his nephew. And it reminds him of his nephew. And the conversations that are happening between the mother and the child reminds him of the conversation he has with his nephew. And I had a moment, Kelly, I was like, yo, that's powerful, because I only remember a couple of children's books that stood out to me when I was growing up. It was Julie Broom's How to Eat Fried Worms. And then the second one was Dr. Seuss's All the Places You Would Go. But I can't remember children's books that had children that looked like me.
No, they didn't.
And I mean, and I really thought that when Davian was talking about that, I was like, yo, I haven't recalled my childhood having books that were by Black authors with Black and brown boys and girls in there. Talk to us about, obviously that is the inspiration for why you did it, but give us more context knowing that you have Titan and Noah and why you saw it was even more of a sense of urgency.
Well, one, I did this book with Jessica McKay, and she and I met through our son's playdate, Titan and Chase's playdates. So she told me, who she was and her background. She's a teacher and wife, mother, but she said she had 4 to 5 children's book ideas. And I said, I've never written a children's book, but we'll figure it out together. And so we did. And she has beautiful black kids of her own. You know what I mean? Claude, Carter, and Chase. And I have Titan, and now I have Noah. So it's like they have to feel like they see themselves in this book.
Yeah.
And they do. That's the best part, is that they do see themselves in this book. And the fact that they see themselves, other black boys will see themselves, and they'll see their families. You know what I mean? So that meant a lot to us because we didn't see that growing up.
Yeah.
And that was intentional. The shading was intentional. The looks from their eyes, if you see the twinkle in the mother's eyes and the son's eyes on the cover of the book, is intentional. The magic traces are intentional. It's the bond. It's the fact that they're in a museum is intentional. The fact that the mother is on a lot, and she's an architect, a black architect, and the men are behind her, and she's telling them how she wants this site to look is intentional. Everything about it. And I must say, I'm really grateful to a girlfriend of mine, Rhoda Ahmed, who is a New York Times children's author, best-selling children's author as well, because she had so much insight, and she was sharing her insight with us.
Yeah.
You know, it was a time and a place and a space where women didn't collaborate like that, where women didn't want to share their knowledge like that, and we were doing that all together in this room, and it was just idea after idea after idea sparking. It was incredible.
The intentionality is a theme that jumped out to me in reading every page. And audience, I'm going to say, like, I literally read every page of this book and enjoyed it. What struck out to me was the decision to do a mother and a son. And even more what struck out to me was the tenderness of the boy. Because I feel like black boys are never seen as the boys that they are. We are always seen as 18 years old, 20, always grown men, right? We're never allowed just to be a youthful, and we're never allowed to be seen as vulnerable.
And innocent.
Did you and Jessica McKay, talk a lot about developing that narrative?
You know, we did talk about it. We had our own our own stories, like gearing up to, like even the writing of the book but those conversations had nothing to do with the book. I think that they kind of found themselves in the book organically because that we see our sons like that. You know what I mean? And we want the rest of the world to see our sons like that forever, not a threat. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because they are full of potential, full of wonder, full of greatness. And it's seeing them in this space now and watching them evolve into great men. Yeah. Yeah, so. And
I love how the boy is crying. I really do. And for me, that is such strength. And also, too, it gives... Sometimes people need permission that it's okay to cry. Yes. It's okay to see your son cry. That's healthy. Yeah. But it's also great for the rest of America in Iowa and Nebraska to see black boys crying, that we are just innocent at the end of the day, that we're not these things. But you did a great way of not only communicating, I felt, to young boys and girls, but you also did a good way of making the adult readers see themselves. And that's also, too, is rare. Like, a lot of times, I think in children's book, the emphasis is on the child, as it should be. But what I enjoyed is how well developed in a short amount of time the parent story arc was developed. You know, I do want to lean a little bit more about the mother, because when I turned the page, I was surprised. And that's probably something we should talk about, why I was surprised that when I saw this mother in a hard hat on a construction site, right? Yes. Like leading the man. And I was like, whoa. Didn't see that coming. But then I checked myself into, like, why am I surprised?
Because we don't see it. Like, why don't we make these things like regulated? Like, I honestly have never met a female architect. I'd love to. You know what I mean? And because I'd never met them, I'm like, but I know they're out there, and I know they're breaking ground, and I know they're doing big things, but I need to make it. I want to be a part of you seeing it more often. Yeah. So that was definitely like, yeah, and she's leading them.
Yeah, she is.
I remember being in that moment, and Rhoda's like, yeah, she's telling them what to do. It was such a moment for us as women, because we're like, we've never seen that, but because we've never seen it, we've never met this woman, but we're championing the hell out of her. Yeah. Because we're like, yeah, we want a female architect. Yeah. You know, so and I think that there's a girl who is building Legos right now, figuring out her way of how she's going to create some building in the future that is going to last for how many of years, you know what I mean? But she'll be the mastermind behind it. And when she reads this book, she'll see herself and she'll be able to take that and she'll walk into her future.
So powerful you said that. The thing about, I've only known one. And because I only know one, I forget that I know one, right? When I saw the image, her name is DeWanda Williams. She's not an architect, but she's one of the nation's biggest real estate developers. It's not because she's a Black woman. It's just because by nature of the amount of the cost of her projects, she's one of the nation's top. Now, as we're talking, I remember seeing her on Instagram post her in her hard hat leading this big construction development in Brooklyn. And now, so I'm going to give her some flowers. And now she is the only Black developer. And I don't say with pride, hopefully there'll be more in the future.
Yes.
But as of now, she's the only Black developer redeveloping the last World Trade Center tower.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? DeWanda Williams. I was going to make sure I shout her out to you. Congratulations, DeWanda.
Out.
Yeah, very proud of her. But that is, she can't do it by herself, right? Like, again, we're talking about the ecosystem, amplifying each other.
Absolutely.
Right? Me doing right now on the show, you putting it into character that's amplifying her to give her space and to break the dynamic of that. And then, Kelly, I flipped the page again.
Okay. I'm like, oh my God. Okay.
The next page I flipped to was seeing the father there and then seeing the father as a doctor. And that actually gave me chills, to be honest with you, Kelly, because I talk often, you know, not just here on this show, but on everywhere I can, is that there's this narrative that Black men aren't fathers. And I remember I always talk about this moment where I saw, and this isn't a knock to the organization, I'm thankful they did it, but it saddens me they had to do it. They did a march of Black men pushing their children in strollers down the street to demonstrate that Black men are fathers.
Wow.
The fact that they felt they needed to do that hurt me. Right? Glad they did it, but the fact that we needed to do it, and we never see, it's rare we see in media and publications and books, the wholesomeness of the mother and the father being Black in the family raising their children. And so seeing the character in the book on FaceTime, the father on the couch, and then the boy with so much joy was so powerful for me in that moment. Talk to us about what you were thinking about when you guys created that.
Absolutely. I mean, for us, it was, of course, it's like the sweet bond between a mother and her child. But the father is in their lives. You know what I mean? I think that there was this narrative for a long time, like, well, there's only, mother and son relationships, and that should be the only thing, you focus on. But it's like, no, like, I'm meeting more and more people who want to start families. You know what I mean? Whether it's a father, a mother, and their child, a son or daughter, a father and their son, a father and their daughter, a mother and her daughter, a mother and her son. Like, these are dynamics that we see, but I didn't see that dynamic in a book when I was a kid.
Same.
I did not see that dynamic. I was like, it's going in my book.
Absolutely.
It's going in my book. And that was literally it. But I mean, my husband is that person. My husband, he travels for work for sure, but not as much as I do. So it's like he's there with our sons and he is playing with them, and he's being able to be at home in his office, but he's starting to get back to his office, where he works, but he misses the boys and he wants to be there, and they go golfing and they go ice cream and they go this and they go that and they go to the Grand Prix and they you know what I mean? Like, they're like really doing things together, and I'm not there. You know what I mean? And that's a dynamic that is happening. When I talk to my girlfriends, they're like, no, well, he has to stay home because I have to do such and such. And you're figuring out your schedules for each other to make your lives and your occupation and the thing that you enjoy, happen while still balancing a home life, for sure.
When I read the opening page of the book, I was wondering, were you addressing this narrative? The question I want to ask you next was, what you've actually led me to, is there a mother's guilt? Right?
Yes.
When she is the the work when she is a working mom,
Yes.
and she may be the one who's on the road or out of the home a little bit more than the father. I'm wondering, was this part of the book was addressing that narrative?
Yes. I have a lot of mom guilt. I know a lot of moms that I talk to have a lot of mom guilt. I think that someone just asked me the question, like, why don't you think fathers feel like they have to, they feel like a way about this book, because mothers are like, I have to work, or not have to work, but I'm working and I'm figuring out the household. That's just what we've done. You know what I mean? We have been in the household. Our ancestors have been in the household for so long. They had dreams. They were creative. They saw themselves outside of the home just as much as they saw themselves with their family. Yep. But that was the sacrifice that they made. And you respect that. And then another generation comes along and it's like, well, I want both. And you figure out how to do both. When men are just like, well, I'm going to go to work and, they still make it run, and you have like great fathers out there who are figuring it out and they do both. But for the longest amount of time, men have gone to work and they've come back home. Mm-hmm. And women have taken care of the house, gone to work, come back home, figured out the schedule. What are we eating? It's in the Tupperware. It's in we have to meal prep. Okay, he's going to such and such at 3:00 after school. Then, like, that's us. Yeah. That's just who we are. And I think that's like how it's evolved, period.
And I love that your book is moderating that conversation in a number of ways, everything you just talked about. Yeah. And in particular, I love the opening line where you say, I've choreographed a world for you that you didn't even know I did before you woke up. And I thought that opening line was so powerful to set the tone in terms of what working moms are really up to and doing. But you led me to something I never thought about until just now, of that, we talk often about systematic racism, but I think there's also a system in corporate America that has prevented fathers from feeling that father guilt. Because if you think about it, there's more progressive, not political ideology, more progressive companies that are giving the men who work there, parental fathers are able to get time off now in order to be with the children and to be with the mother. But for so long, that was never even an option, because for so long it was never thought that that was a role of the father.
Right.
But I think now, I don't think it's changing per se. I think you see some change, right? Where now the policy is there. So now I think fathers will begin to assume, more of that responsibility, and it begins to shift the paradigm.
It is. I mean, if you think about it, I know when Olympia was born and when Serena had Olympia, I remember that was a big thing for Alexis, and wanting to make sure he was a part of changing that narrative. Yeah. And he was like, no, I'm staying on with my kid. Yeah. And I was like, wow. Like, I thought that was really incredible, because here you are, you have this great big company, you know what I mean? And tech brilliant, man. But it's like, no, I want to spend time with my kid too. Yeah. And it took somebody like him to be able to start the conversation about it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And people started listening. And I think they're still trying to process it, because men are like, what? I still think they can't hear past men. Some men can't hear past men.
You're absolutely right.
And that's okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? But you'll come around, because one, you're going to have to.
You have no choice.
It has to evolve. Yeah.
But I think that goes down to, though, Kelly, like, they always, I'm not a father yet, operative word yet. I'm looking forward to being a father soon. Yeah. That they always talk about the most critical time to bond with the child is in that first few moments and weeks that they have. And so if the father just comes to the hospital on the Friday, right, the baby is born, they go right back to work on a Monday, right? So they evade systematically, they evade that bonding moment. So and therefore they don't feel that guilt, because they haven't had that time to bond in the way that a mother does instantaneously when they place the child on your bosom.
It's true. I mean, think about it. Like, what was that? I remember watching, and my mom said it, like back in the day, they didn't allow the man to come in there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There was a reason why. Because it's like, stay in your place, have her be in her place.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it just starts that whole thought right there. It's like, well, I'll just come and see the baby. Or I'll come and check in on the baby. The mother can do all the work, but I'll just come in and check on the baby. But then you got dads who are like, no, I got him. Like, I've seen that too, So.
Which is why I think this book, and Kelly always talk about art for me is a moderate social discourse, and in any form, whether it's music, whether it's visual, performing, written. And I think a work like this is helping to moderate the conversation. I can talk to you all day. I know you have to go.
I know I can talk to you all day. I'm sitting up here going, God, I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah, too. But I do want to infer in this two ways, and then we can close it out, is that you inferred Serena, and I love the fact that when she's on the construction site, audience, when I tell you this book is so intentional, like, audience, you know I love details and nuance. I read in the gray. Like, this is the book for us. For those who love nuance and can visualize, is that in the construction site, in the billboard, you had a black female tennis player who probably is in the likeness of Venus and Serena and Sloane and all the great black female tennis players that are out there. I thought that was brilliant. But the other thing that I loved, I was like, this damn Kelly does not miss, right? When I turned the page again, right? I didn't expect for you guys to be at the museum.
Yeah, man.
And to see it, the mother, in the museum with her son, and then there was this references and inference of Basquiat. And I just thought that was just so powerful for so many reasons. Yes. The fact of, like, okay, I grew up in Lansing, Michigan, and thankfully I had parents who were involved and active in my life, two-parent household, not putting value proposition on that. But Kelly, when you mentioned, like, your husband is taking your son to the Grand Prix and ice cream, that's what my father did, right? And so those things that I did, thankfully I was able to travel. And so, I did go to museums as a youth outside of my city, Lansing, Michigan. But Lansing just got its first art museum 8 years ago. Yeah. Can you imagine, like, just growing up? And there's so many other cities like Lansing that are out there that grow up where there is no art museums that children can go to and could dream and to daydream. So seeing this son in this book had the ability to be in a museum and placement in the museum, what I was hoping that the readers and audiences get out of it, because of your reach is so vast that you have Kelly Rowland, that when your followers and people see it, that they would be encouraged to take their children to an art museum.
Absolutely. And I'm just thinking about, like, as a kid, I don't recall going to a museum. You know what I mean? I didn't go to a museum until I was much older. And I think about the fact that Titan he couldn't talk, you know what I mean? And he's at a museum. The same thing for Noah. And it made me think about, like, one of the things I love about my Mama T's and Richard Lawson's organization, Waco, is that they take these young people to museums. They show them, like, all these beautiful art spaces. They get a chance to meet these artists. They get a chance to be creative themselves. What if they're actually a part of the next Basquiat or Kalita Rawls? So it's like so many kids who have this gift, and they just need to see how they can connect to it and themselves back.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
See themselves in it, right?
Absolutely.
And the joy of it, I think a lot of times, and I think this is going to be my last conversation piece right here coming up, is that what you've demonstrated is that sometimes, there's this grand illusion that you have to have a lot of money to do things with your child. And what you've demonstrated in this book is that you don't, right? Sometimes it's just about the representation of seeing mom at work or going to work, and mom coming on the FaceTime and going to museum. And, I understand, there is a cost associated with some museums, not all, but it's not that expensive. Like, it might be $5 sometimes. And sometimes audience is just a suggested donation, right? So don't let price, influence you from doing that. But what I loved about the last moment of the book was seeing the family together on Saturday making pancakes. I was like, go off, Kelly. Like, the way, like, you close the book out with making pancakes, listen to music, like, it's almost like it was written so well, and the illustrator did such a good job. I could actually hear the melody of the music almost. I could actually hear the chaos. Yeah. I could hear the pot stirring. Which is why I love the artist Kerry James Marshall, because to me his work is so lyrical.
It is.
Right? Like,
you hear music as soon as you look at it, right?
As soon as you do. And that's what I got from this. It's like I heard it. Like, I heard the clinking. I could smell the batter, right? The bubbles that you mentioned. And I'm just like, I was like, I want to have a Saturday morning with my family. I can't wait. So I'm going to start making kids tonight, I think.
I love it.
Hey, Kelly, you're going to be the unofficial godmother.
Okay, I'm ready. I am ready.
I'm like, you are here because Kelly Rowland wrote a book and the last page is pancakes.
Exactly.
And I want this moment right here.
But P.S., that's what we do. We literally do that on Saturday. There was a recipe I found on Tasty, and they literally let the batter sit, and suppose this is like the best pancakes. I remember before we tried it, and I gave him the Titan. I was like, what do you think? He goes, this is the best pancake I've ever had. And I was like, that's all that matters. So when I come home, he knows the difference of taste now when I do it in the box and when I do it from scratch.
Oh.
So he's like, can you make it all over again? He says all over again. I don't know what all over again means. And then I was like, all over again? And he was like, all over again. And I was like, oh, from scratch. You saw all of this stuff out here, because I remember once I had to make them all over again because everybody ate them all. Wow. But they're that fluffy and good. And I think the smell, him helping me, pouring stuff in there, like trying to pour it in the pan. And I'm like, no, baby, you can't pour it in the pan. It's too hot. You know what I mean? Like all of that interaction he loves. So when I come home, it's a sense of normalcy, like when mommy's home for him, and he needs that. So
Kelly, and this audience, I swear to God, is my last one because you got to go. But just thinking about, and I mean this in a very sincere way, cheers to you for being such a great mother. Because, you have the job where everyone knows what you're doing. Right? Yeah. So we all know how extremely busy you are. And just to hear these very tender moments you have with your children, that you still make time, is that just because you're a mother still doesn't mean that's guaranteed to happen. And so thank you for being such a great mom and a great example for working moms out there, that you can do both.
Absolutely.
It's okay to do both.
And to give yourself some grace. I keep saying that every time I speak, because I think because we're women, we are so hard on ourselves and we're so emotional, and we're like, we sometimes don't have anything left for ourselves. And the truth is that if we have nothing left for ourselves, what are we going to pour out? Yeah. You know what I mean? Because then if you're like tired or anxious, or it's just too much, and I keep doing this because you're like here, you know what I mean? And you're like barely making it above water. How are we pouring back into ourselves? So I encourage you to take a steam shower, take a bath, and put candles out. Enjoy this Mother's Day. You know what I mean? If the kids are just with a friend or grandma or aunt, because I have my cousin is so funny. She was like, she asked her ex-husband, he says, what do you want to do for Mother's Day? She says, I'm going to chill. And he's like, what? She's like, I'm going to chill. She's like, I'm just going to have that day off for myself. I was like, that's brilliant. That's so brilliant. I'm opposite because I haven't seen my kids. So I'm like, I want to be around them. I want to hear them say my name all day. I want them to like hit me in the face. I want all of it.
All of it.
I want all of it. And she's like, no, mommy needs a break too. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. I think so much of the time, like even for them to question her, it was like, well, you don't want to be around her. And it's like, it's not that I don't, but I need some time for myself too. And I respected her for saying that and advocating for herself and knowing that she needed that time. And I was very proud of her. So I think that for women, it is okay to say that. It's okay to have your time to yourself.
It is. And Kelly, God, we got to stop at some point. I swear to God, we will. This is it. The audience, I swear to God, this is the final one. It reminds me to put a capsule on that when they talk on the airplane and they say, before assisting others, put the mask on yourself.
Yep.
Because you can't be a great mother if you're worn out, beat down, exhausted.
That's right.
You're going to transfer that energy onto your child.
That's right.
That's why this book is so important. Always with you, always with me, with Kelly Rowland. And Kelly Rowland, thank you for everything. I cannot wait to have you back on the Mike Muse Show.
Absolutely.
Since you brought me back into the studio.
Absolutely.
Just so we're here.
Absolutely.
You owe me a few more.
No, absolutely. I do.
And I can't wait for Speed of Love.
Thank you.
Always do Speed of Love, please.
You know what?
Please.
The next time I come, I would do it here live with a guitar.
Yeah.
Just for you.
Hey!
Just
you heard it. It's going down. Kelly Rowland, we love you. We love you. Thank you so much.